Our next group's mammoth project to connect Westport with surrounding wetlands has not only changed the face of a town, but also the way a community views itself. Representing Bulla District, please welcome the Bulla Cycling Club.
Good morning. I've got to start with a big thank you. What a humbling presentation from Henry O'Keefe last night. It was just marvellous. And onwards. Wow. This group delivering mental health, physical health, community pride, environmental complementary infrastructure from a large, diverse family that absolutely possesses passionate and awesome people. It's with huge pride I introduce Glenn Awesome and Paul Awesome from the Bulla Cycle Club.
Thank you very much, Gary. I think you used 2 more seconds than we had allocated for you, but that's all right. So yes, we are from the Bulla Cycling Club, and it would be fair to say that the last few years have been a bit of a surprise for us. Whilst riding bikes has remained at the core of what we do and what we're passionate about, we now know that giving a town a new perspective of itself has been the most important thing we've achieved. And we feel pretty darn honoured to have been a part of that. A bit of background on Westport. It's always been what its name suggests, a port town on the west coast. It's struggled to find an identity in a district that includes the famous pancake rocks of Punakaiki, the Oparara limestone arches in Karamea, and the gold rush town of Reefton, commonly known as the Town of Light.
Westport, meanwhile, has been a service town for the coal industry that has both given and taken from our community. We're surrounded by an untamed natural wilderness that includes the Tasman Sea to the north, pounding on our boundary on a daily basis, and the Bulla River to the west, largely hidden from view and sliding silently past us. Despite having these incredible places on our doorstep, we have never given them the opportunity to become part of our town story. So how do you start to shed light on these incredible pieces of the natural world? Make them a place to ride a bike.
We started out 8 years ago at the Karatiri Beach Reserve on a piece of abandoned land that DOC inherited. They didn't have any resources to develop it, so we decided to take on the challenge for them. It's been a pretty slow and gradual transformation, but it's now looks something like this. Not only a place to ride a bike, but a place to stay and also enjoy and be creative. This is the sort of stuff that pops up now. The beach reserve, while being well utilised, still remained aloof from Westport though, and the river continued to slide silently past, so we thought that something more had to be done.
And so the Karatiri River Trail was born. Hugging the rock wall of the river, the trails provide a road-free environment from our town to our beach and enable the river and its people to finally meet each other. So far, the friendship has been going really well. So what does it take to connect a town to its distant beach? 180 metres of boardwalk, 85 metres of bridge, a few kilometres of track, $200,000 to fund it all, and a huge dose of community goodwill. First up was the boardwalk crossing the harbour. We found a builder to lead the project, then launched into something that seemed Herculean at the time, but was entirely doable, with the right people and the right spirit to drive things along. The pile of timber in the Mitre 10 yard looked formidable before we began, and it was hard to believe that a group of volunteers would be able to turn this into a boardwalk. But we did, and so the introduction to our river began.
Given we called this thing the Karatiri River Trail, we wanted to ensure that the trail stuck to the river as much as it possibly could. The boardwalk got us close, but the river still remained distant. The key to success was one more bridge across a gap between 2 ancient rock walls in the middle of a tidal lagoon that no one had given thought to for many, many years. It's commonly known as the Lost Lagoon. Our little club doesn't like to turn down a challenge, so after some discussions with engineers and builders, we found a solution that seemed to work, on paper at least. It was, however, entirely dependent on getting 4 piles driven into thick mud, 250 metres from the nearest piece of solid ground that was out of water for 3 hours at a time between tides. We didn't really know how to do that, so we went to the out-of-town specialists first, and they came up with a price, $22,000. That was a bit more than we were prepared to pay, so we had a chat to a few of the locals and tried to see if there was an alternative way of doing it.
The first step was to send our intrepid digger driver contractor on a swim in the swamp. Fortunately, he made it back to shore, and not only that, he believed the whole thing was possible. The door to success opened a crack, but there was still a heck of a lot to do. Plenty of challenges ahead. So step 2, raise some more money. It came from all directions, but we were still $6,000 short. Thanks to Give a Little and the ever generous support of the Westport community and surrounds, we raised the money and got to work. Step 3, drive 4 piles 6 metres into the ground in exactly the right place. Not too hard and doable in a couple of tides. Step 4, bring in a further 4 piles to get the structure above ground level. Again, a couple of tides worth of work. Step 5, bring in 9 16-metre long beams. We started at dawn and worked till sunset. Then we started at dawn again the next day and worked through the day, working around the tides to finally form a crossing of the Lost Lagoon. Step 6, build a bridge on the beams. Cheered on and often fed, well fed I must say, daily by the many track users that were very keen to see this completed so that they could go and use it in the future. Step 7, watch and smile as the introductions continue between a river and its people. And on the 7th day, we rested. Briefly, but not for long. We still had quite a few things we wanted to do.
Given we were getting good at building bridges, Doc donated one to us, and so to the Millennium Bridge we turned our attention. Again, engineers and builders were engaged to get the approvals sorted, and some money was raised to pay the bills. The bridge is at the end of a riverside track and resolved a 17-year-long issue of the track going under at every high tide, and we can now ensure that people have dry feet at any time. The addition of a seat and some landscaping have created a new outlook on Westport that people are loving. The introductions continued.
So, what's all this done for Westport? Locally, it's shown our community that we're a pretty generous bunch of people that can pull off some pretty big projects when we collectively throw our weight behind them. It's revealed that we're a resourceful, creative and enterprising town that can think outside the square and find some solutions to challenges that seem quite daunting. And we're even known to drive poles in our undies if we really, really need to. The new outlooks that we've opened up help people to see Westport in a whole different light. We aren't just another coal town, we're an active community with an incredible natural environment in our backyard that people are now engaging with on a daily basis. And we've started riding bikes. Well, the high school had pulled out bike racks previously due to lack of use. They're now putting them back in again. So people are out there walking, biking, running the trails, many as part of their daily routine. There's somewhere really fun to go now and people are really loving it.
Surprisingly, the story behind the trails has received a bit of interest from afar. It's appeared in the Christchurch Press, on TVNZ's Good Sorts. Thanks, Hayden. And on the Inspiring Communities website, and more recently in the pages of New Zealand Today. All of this is great promotion for Westport, and the story of how it's been done has gone on to inspire generous volunteer action across the globe. But what makes us smile the most? Seeing the enjoyment on people's faces, both young and old, as they engage with their long-forgotten river and beach and build a new understanding of what it means to be a part of the Westport community. This is my 3-year-old daughter cruising across my boardwalk. Makes me pretty proud. Our efforts have been well worth it. Thank you very much.